Hi everyone, my name is Matt and I'm a food waste warrior at Too Good To Go. Here to talk to you a little bit today about fighting food waste. Now, you might have heard the term food waste thrown around a little bit, but you might not understand just how big an impact food waste has on our climate. I'm going to start by asking you a really simple question to help you understand just how big this issue is. How many of you have ever thrown away a banana? Now, this could be used for any kind of fruit or vegetable, maybe some milk or some bread you thought was a little bit old, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to focus just on bananas. You see, at every stage of a banana's production and a banana's life, it emits some kind of CO2 emission. In the very beginning, when it's out on the farm, being grown wherever it's grown, perhaps in Asia or Central or South America, utilizing fertilizers and being on the farm in general, all the farming equipment that is required to grow the banana adds CO2. The next stage of a banana's life, it's harvesting and packaging, as it's being prepared to be shipped across the world for sale and consumption by you and I. That shipping is by far the largest contributor of carbon emissions to a banana's life. Think about the transportation that's required to get the banana from the farm to the sea, across country, across borders, and then here to us in the United Kingdom. The next phase of a banana's life that continues to add to its carbon footprint is its ripening and its retail sale. Finding the banana in the supermarket, it's come on a long journey, but still that process of being in the supermarket is adding to its carbon footprint. Finally, if the banana doesn't get eaten and ends up in landfill, it continues to produce CO2, not just in the process of transporting the banana to the landfill, but as it decomposes, it continues to emit greenhouse gases. When you add all these steps together, a single humble banana produces roughly 121 grams of greenhouse gas emissions. Now that doesn't sound like a great deal, but when you put it into other terms, that's actually the equivalent of having a shower for 10 whole minutes or charging a smartphone 10 times. That's actually quite a bit. Now think about it at scale. Think for a moment just how many bananas are wasted each day in the UK. Approximately 1.4 million end up being wasted. 1.4 million bananas. And again, that's just bananas. We're not talking about bread or milk or other fruits and vegetables, just bananas. To paint a picture of that, each day, that's the equivalent of charging over 2 million smartphones. Or having almost 4 passenger vehicles driving on the road for a whole year. That's heaps. Food waste is a huge problem. In fact, more than 40% of all food that is produced on farms, in restaurants and kitchens is wasted. Food waste is directly responsible for 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. To give that some perspective, the whole airline industry and all the airplanes that fly each day contribute only 2.5%. 2.5 billion tons of food is wasted every year. That's 51 tons each second end up in landfill as waste. Think about that, considering how many people in the world are starving. Economically, the cost of food waste is somewhere in the region of 872 billion pounds a year. Huge, huge numbers we're talking. If it were a country, food waste would be the third highest emitter of carbon emissions behind the United States and China. When food goes into landfill, that's not the end of its story. As it begins to decompose, it starts releasing methane gas, which is actually 27 times more potent than carbon dioxide. All in all, it paints a really dire picture and shows us just how important food waste is. Now I hear you saying, yeah, cool, that sounds terrible, but what can I do? Actually, there's quite a lot. The first suggestion I'm going to give you is to check the labels. Now, when you buy food from the supermarket, it often comes with a use-by date. Now, that's there for safety. Anything with a use by after that date is generally not safe to eat after that time. However, most of the food we buy actually comes with either a best before or display until date on things like fresh produce. Now, those aren't there for safety, they are simply an indication of quality. The food after that time might not be at its best or freshest, but it should still be perfectly safe to eat. If you're unsure, we recommend using the look, smell, taste, don't waste method. Have a look at the food, observe it. If you can see any signs of mold or serious deterioration, it's probably not safe to eat. The next step, if it looks alright, give it a smell. When food starts to decompose, it emits a terrible odour. If the food doesn't smell right, it's probably not safe to eat. Finally, if it looks alright and it smells alright, give it a taste. If it tastes in a way that you don't think it should, possibly it's on its way out. However, if it tastes fine, go for it. The next step is to eat ugly. Now, sometimes the fruit and veg or any food that we get might not look the way we imagine it, but that doesn't mean that the food isn't perfectly safe and delicious to eat. So next time you're at your local supermarket, don't shy away from food that might not look the best. Any slight imperfections can be removed and the food will be perfectly safe and delicious to consume. The next step is to utilize your leftovers. When you finish your meal, check and see what you can do with the leftover food. Generally, I put mine in a storage container, pop it in the fridge. I can pop it in the microwave or on the hob the next day to heat it up and have give my food a perfectly nutritious second life. Also, look online for different recipes that you can utilize that uses food that is past its best. You might find a little recipe to use banana bread for bananas that are past their prime state. Finally, advocacy. Talk to your friends and family about food waste. Most people don't know just how dire the situation is, and they don't know what they can do. If you see your friends throwing away food, talk to them about it. Ask them, does it really need to go in the bin? Could it be used in another way? If you're constantly given food at home that you can't stand that ends up in the bin, talk to your parents or guardians about maybe swapping it out for something else. In the fight against food waste, every little step helps. And if everyone does it, we can make a really huge impact together. The question is now, what are you going to do about food waste? Now, if you'd like more information about any of the things I've talked about, there's heaps of resources online. These 3 websites are a great start: suntrapcentre.co.uk, fightfoodwaste.co.uk, and toogoodtogo.co.uk, where there's heaps of information about what you can do in the fight against food waste. If we all do a small bit, we can do heaps together. Thanks.